All righty. Good morning, everybody. This is your hearing examiner. Let's see, it is 10:02. Are we missing anybody? It looks like we're pretty good. We have our court reporter, Miss Ash Hoyman. Thank you for being here. I guess we can go on the record and introduce ourselves for the record. I'll give a little introduction first. So let's see here. Madam Court Reporter, just let us know when you're ready to go on. Okay, thumbs up. Pardon me, I have a little bit of a cold, as you know. All right, so we are here in the matter of the AV water, the transfer of, I'm just going to call it an informal name. The caption, of course, will be on the transcript, but in the matter of the transfer of the Morningstar water system from AV Water Company, LLC, I'm sorry, I'll speak more clearly, to New Mexico Water Service Company. This is the hearing itself. This is matter number 21-00188-UT. And I'm your hearing examiner, Russell Fisk. I'm also the attorney from the Office of General Counsel for this matter, which is convenient. I can recommend to the commission whatever I'm recommending to the commission as a hearing examiner. Let's go around and introduce the counsel for the parties or representatives. We have one representative who's not an attorney. And then we can have the witnesses introduce themselves as well. So let's start with Ms. O'Brien.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Hearing Examiner and everyone. Maria O'Brien, counsel for co-applicant New Mexico Water Service Company. And for the court reporter, mostly we'll be referring in the hearing today, New Mexico Water Service Company as New Mexico Water.
We can proceed to Mr. Lewis.
Good morning, everyone. I am Randall Lewis, the court-appointed receiver for AV Water, and with the permission of the commission and the hearing examiner, I am the company's representative in this matter.
Mr. Lewis and Ms. O'Brien, and the attorney for staff, Mr. Bagatko.
Good morning, Mr. Hearing Examiner. I hope I'm coming through clearly.
Yes, you are, yes.
Don Bagatko, counsel for the New Mexico Public Regulation Utility Division staff here today, and I will be accompanied by two staff witnesses. I think you'll let them introduce themselves here shortly. Thank you.
Yes, that'd be great. Milo Chavez, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Milo Chavez would represent the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission.
Okay. Milo, I could understand you, but it was a little muffled, so just be aware you might want to be closer to your microphone so the court reporter can hear you clearly. And we have Tim Martinez also from staff. Would you introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Timothy Martinez with the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission's Utility Division staff in the Gas, Water, and Wastewater Engineering Bureau.
Thank you. And we have Cynthia Apodaca, witness for New Mexico Water Service Company, or New Mexico Water Company. As Ms. O'Brien, what did you say we're going to be calling your client? To save words?
Yeah, I was right. New Mexico Water.
Sounds good.
If that works.
Ms. Apodaca, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Cynthia Apodaca, and I'm the general manager for New Mexico Water.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We do have someone by telephone that only has a phone number. Did that person identify themselves? 505-320-7896. I'm trying to think, was there another witness that we're expecting, or you're muted. If you're trying to speak, you're muted. And we don't have an identification of you since you're calling in. So I'm not sure who that'd be. I can't remember if we're expecting another witness.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, Mexico Water is not expecting another witness.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a 505 number, so, but it's
Hmm.
anybody we would be expecting.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone who was on the invite is here.
Oh, maybe we may have a commissioner listening in. Okay, I think we have a commissioner listening in. I forgot about that. Sorry. I think there's a commissioner. I apologize. I think you were just going to listen in, so I understand that. Pardon me. So I set my order fairly late last night, but just forming as an informal order the agreements of the parties with regard to how we would proceed today. And the first part of that was that the parties agreed to no opening or closing arguments. We'll get right into the witness examination. The order of examination will be first New Mexico Water, then AV Water Company, and then staff. So with that, we have the exhibits have been provided by all, the pre-marked exhibits have been provided by all parties. So I think we are ready to go ahead and get started. Ms. O'Brien, if you would like to call your witness.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. New Mexico Water calls Cynthia Apodaca as our first and only witness. Ms. Apodaca,
Ms. Apodaca, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
good morning, Ms. Apodaca. Can you
Good
please
morning.
state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Cynthia, Cynthia, Apodaca, Apodaca.
And can you please state your relationship to and your role at New Mexico Water, the co-applicant in this case?
Yes, so I am currently the general manager for New Mexico Water. I've been with this utility for a little over 26 years. I've served the first 23 years as its financial controller and the last little over 2.5 years as a general manager.
Ms. Apodaca, you should have in front of you what has been pre-marked as New Mexico Water Exhibit 1, which is the labeled application in case number 21-00188UT, which is the case we're here for today. Do you have that exhibit before you?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Apodaca, was New Mexico Water Exhibit 1 prepared by New Mexico Water in coordination with AV Water and submitted to and filed with the commission?
Yes.
Were you involved in the preparation of the application, New Mexico Water Exhibit 1, and was it prepared under supervision and control?
Yes, it was.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, with that, I would request that New Mexico Water Exhibit 1, the application in this matter, be admitted as New Mexico Water Exhibit 1.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none, the Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence.
Thank
Or New
you.
Mexico Water Exhibit 1, excuse me.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Apodaca, I would now like to turn to what has been pre-marked New Mexico Water Exhibit 2, labeled direct testimony and attachments of Cynthia Apodaca on behalf of New Mexico Water Service Company in case number 21-00188. Do you have that before you?
Yes, I do.
Is New Mexico Water Exhibit 2 the direct testimony you submitted in support of the application now admitted as New Mexico Water Exhibit 1?
Yes.
Was your direct testimony prepared by you and or under your supervision and control?
Yes, it was.
Do you have any corrections today to your direct testimony?
I do not have any corrections.
If I asked you the questions in your direct testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
And there are attachments to your direct testimony, CA1 and CA2. Would those attachments also be the same in support of your direct testimony?
Yes.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, with that testimony, I would request that New Mexico Water Exhibit 2, the direct testimony and attachments of Cynthia Apodaca, be admitted as New Mexico Water Exhibit 2 in this matter.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, seeing none, New Mexico Water Exhibit 2 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. Ms. Apodaca, I'm now moving to what has been pre-marked New Mexico Water Exhibit 3, denoted supplemental direct testimony of Cynthia Apodaca on behalf of New Mexico Water Service Company in case number 2100188. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
And is this supplemental direct testimony that you submitted in support of the application in this matter?
Yes.
Was the supplemental direct testimony prepared by you and/or under your supervision and control?
Yes, it was.
Do you have any corrections to your supplemental testimony today?
I do not have any corrections.
If I asked you the questions that are contained in your supplemental testimony today, would your answers to those questions be the same as set forth in the supplemental testimony?
Yes, they would.
There is also an attachment, CA3, to your supplemental testimony. Would the attachment in support of your supplemental testimony be the same today as it was submitted?
Yes, it would.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, with that testimony, I would request that New Mexico Water Exhibit 3 be admitted in this matter.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, hearing none, New Mexico Water Exhibit 3 is admitted into evidence.
Ms. Apodaca, I would like to now turn to New Mexico Water Exhibit 4, which is denoted the rebuttal testimony of Cynthia Apodaca on behalf of New Mexico Water Service Company in case number 2100188. Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
Was the rebuttal testimony, New Mexico Water Exhibit 4, submitted by you in support of the application in this matter?
Yes.
Was the rebuttal testimony, New Mexico Water Exhibit 4, prepared by you and/or under your supervision and control?
Yes, it was.
Do you have any corrections today to your rebuttal testimony?
I have no corrections.
If I asked you today the questions contained in your rebuttal testimony, would your answers today be the same as set forth in the rebuttal testimony?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, with that testimony, I would request that New Mexico Water Exhibit 4 be admitted in this matter.
Are there any objections? Seeing none and hearing none, Exhibit 4, New Mexico Water Exhibit 4 is admitted into evidence.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, New Mexico Water has no further questions or exhibits at this time.
Okay. Is there any cross-examination by first I'll go to Mr. Lewis.
None for me, thank you.
Mr. Bagacco.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, there is no cross-examination necessary on behalf of staff for New Mexico Water in regards to any of those exhibits and their witness. We thank them for their attendance, and we thank Ms. Apodaca for putting together some pretty robust testimony. Thank you.
All right, so Ms. Apodaca, you are off the stand. There's a possibility that there may be questions that come up later, but it's doubtful. But if you could stick around, that'd be great. Thank you very much. And Ms. O'Brien, you said this. Ms. Apodaca was your only witness. That's correct.
That is correct, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Excellent. So let's proceed. Mr. Lewis.
Okay, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I will try to be my own advocate and my own witness all at the same time. So I'm going to call myself as AV Water's only witness in this matter.
Mr. Lewis, would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I have just the direct testimony of myself here to propose as AV Water Exhibit 1. It's in the matter we're in 21-00188, and it is my prepared direct testimony with attachments. And if it works for everybody, I'll just run through the basic questions and hopefully cover all of the key points. So this is testimony that was prepared by me and under my supervision. I have no corrections to it. If asked today, I would answer all of these questions the same. And the attachments, there are 3. One is my CV, one is the system area maps, and the third is the court order approving this, my proceeding in this transaction to sell the AV Water assets to New Mexico Water, all of which are attached and are correct and remain unchanged. So with that, I think I would ask that the hearing examiner accept this exhibit as my as AV Water's testimony.
Are there any objections?
No objection.
So Mr. Bogatko does not object either. The sole exhibit, Exhibit 1 for AV Water, is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. I have no further witnesses on AV Water's account and would ask to be excused as a witness.
Do either, well, I'll go to Ms. O'Brien first. Do you have any cross-examination of Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, New Mexico Water has no cross.
And Mr. Bogatko, same question.
Mr. Hearing Examiner, no cross-examination for Mr. Lewis, but we do thank him for his work and participation in this case.
All right, so Mr. Lewis, you are effectively off the stand in case there, of course you will stick around, obviously. You're going to be sticking around with one hat or the other on it, so in case there are questions later, but that's
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And so we move on to staff's presentation. Mr. Bogatko.
Yes, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I have 2 witnesses, as you know, and I would call my first witness, Mr. Timothy A. Martinez, to the stand, please.
Mr. Martinez, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Martinez. How are you?
Doing good. Good morning.
Do you recollect filing some testimony in this case on November 23rd, 2021?
Yes, I do. That testimony was my direct testimony in case number 21-00188-UT.
Thank you. And I trust and hope that you have a copy of that testimony in front of you, which I've provisionally marked as Staff Exhibit 1. Am I correct in that hope?
You are correct.
And this is what was circulated to the parties and other folks on the certificate of service in this case by email yesterday. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, Mr. Martinez, would you take a moment to flip through what's been provisionally marked as Staff Exhibit 1 to make sure that it's a complete and accurate rendition of what you caused to be filed in this case on November 23rd, 2021?
It is.
And this direct testimony, I understand, was filed, or excuse me, prepared by you or at your direction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I also understand that you do not have any corrections to make to your direct testimony marked as Staff Exhibit 1. Am I still correct in that understanding?
That is correct. I have no corrections.
And Mr. Martinez, if you were asked today at this public hearing the same questions as what we see posed there in Staff Exhibit 1, would your answers to those questions still be the same as what we see in your pre-filed testimony?
Yes, they would.
Well, with that, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I would move for the admission of Timothy A. Martinez's direct testimony into the evidentiary record marked as Staff Exhibit 1.
Are there any objections? Mr. Lewis is saying no, and Ms. O'Brien.
No objection.
All right, so Staff Exhibit 1 is moved into evidence, is admitted into evidence, excuse me.
And then thank you for that, Mr. Hearing Examiner. With that, I would tender Mr. Martinez for any cross-examination from the parties.
All right, does Ms. O'Brien, do you have any cross for Mr. Martinez?
New Mexico Water has no cross. Thank you.
And Mr. Lewis, same question?
None for AV Water. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Martinez, you are off the stand, but you'll be here, obviously. So, Mr. Brigacco, I believe you have another witness.
That is correct. I've got one other witness, and that's Mr. Milo Chavez, who I would call to the stand now, please.
Mr. Chavez, would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chavez. How are you?
I am fine, Mr. Bogatko. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
I trust and hope that you have a copy of what I've provisionally marked as Staff Exhibit 2, which consists of the direct testimony that you filed in this case on November 23rd, 2021.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And that is the same testimony that I circulated by email yesterday to the parties in the case and other folks appearing on the COS. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Chavez, would you take a moment to flip through what's been provisionally marked as Staff Exhibit 2 to make sure that it is a complete and accurate rendition of the testimony you previously filed in this case?
It is, Mr. Bogatko.
And I understand, Mr. Chavez, that you don't have any corrections to make to this pre-filed testimony provisionally marked as Staff Exhibit 2. Am I still correct in that understanding?
Yes, you are.
Thank you for that. And this was prepared by you or at your direction as a member of the Utility Division staff. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Chavez, if you were asked today at this public hearing the same questions as what we see posed in that pre-filed testimony, would your answers to those questions still be the same as what we see in that testimony, or would they be different?
They would be the same.
Thank you for that. Well, with that, Mr. Hearing Examiner, I would move for admission into the evidentiary record, the pre-filed direct testimony of Milo J. Chavez, which I've provisionally marked as Staff Exhibit 2.
Are there any objections? Mr. Lewis is shaking his head no. Ms. O'Brien is, I'll take Ms. O'Brien's silence as a no, unless Ms. O'Brien wishes to speak.
No objection.
Okay, so Staff Exhibit 2 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hearing Examiner. And with that, I would tender Mr. Chavez for cross-examination.
Do we have any cross-examination, Ms. O'Brien?
No cross-examination from New Mexico Water. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
And none from AV Water. Thank you, sir.
All right, so Mr. Chavez, you are off stand and we're at the end. So the witnesses are all off stand. Thank you for your participation. Unless the parties agree not to have any closing arguments. So I don't believe there's anything else to resolve. I'm going to, on the record, all the witnesses, the presentation of evidence is complete. I'll let the parties know that as this is an uncontested application, I plan to issue an RD that will recommend approval of the transaction and the application, granting the application to the commission. And then as counsel to the commission, I will also recommend that they adopt my recommended decision. It's very convenient. The next open meeting is not until January 5th, I believe. So it's not a very short timeline, but typically in uncontested matter like this, where I'm presiding, I will ask the parties if they would waive exceptions to such an RD, approving the transaction, granting the application, but leaving open the possibility of exceptions or to specific wording, if I get some of the wording wrong, if parties would be willing to waive exceptions with that caveat. Ms. O'Brien.
I just want to make sure I understand the question that is being posed. So it's anticipated what the hearing examiner is articulating is that the recommended decision to the commission will recommend approval of the application as set forth in the application and all the supporting testimony. So it would be a recommended decision consistent with the application and all the supporting testimony as was all admitted into evidence today, but reserving the right to file exceptions with regard to specific wording. So I'm sorry, as I walk through this, I'm just trying to understand what we're waiving exceptions to. If we can file exceptions to specific wording, maybe I'm just not understanding what the hearing examiner would like.
Typically, I do this in cases where first of all, I would know it's absolutely fine if any council or party representative does not want to waive exceptions. I've typically employed this where we have an extremely short timeline where I come out with an RD in like the next couple of days, and then it's on the next week's open meeting agenda. This one is not. It does not have such a tight timeline. We don't even have an open meeting until January 5th. And I think we have a self-imposed date of March 1st or a commission-imposed date of March 1st for deadline. So if the question I was asking, if the parties would want to waive exceptions to an RD that would approve, that would grant the joint application as per, as updated by testimony, et cetera. And I've done that in other types of cases, generally eligible telecommunications carrier designation cases that they're very brief RDs. This will probably be a very brief RD. I tend to write them quick because I'm not a professional hearing examiner, so I like to do it quickly. And but it would allow for, if there's any, there wouldn't be any substantive exceptions except just a question of if I got the language wrong or that in an important way, it would allow for that exception. But like I said, since this isn't such a short, there isn't any extreme need for expediting this matter. We could just avoid this altogether. It's fine with me if we do. I just thought I'd bring that up because, like I said, there's no open meeting until January 5th. So I mean, I could shorten the period for exceptions. I'm just trying to figure out a way to, because the exception period is generally 13 days, and let's see, 13, and then there's an 8. I don't think it'd be 80 filed. So I'm looking at this schedule. Let's just forget what I usually do, because January 5th, there's time for a 13-day exception period. So I'll just leave it as is. I withdraw that recommendation because I think it's causing more confusion than anything. We'll just go with the ordinary period under the rules. So does anyone have anything they'd like to add to that? To the
Mr. Hearing Examiner,
in general, to the record for the hearing.
The only thing I would add is just, I guess, an encapsulation of my understanding, which is that you're inclined towards granting the joint application and all the relief requested therein, including the things that were articulated and crystallized by virtue of the direct testimony and the rebuttal testimony. And what I'm specifically referring to are the conditions to approval that staff recommended, which were accepted by New Mexico Water. I trust and hope that those will feature prominently in your RD, and provided that even though you've withdrawn the offer, I would waive exceptions and only reserve them for, non-substantive issues. But I understand your ruling, and I think I know where this case is heading. So I just wanted to say that and make a record. But thank you very much for your work on this and your offer, at any rate, to waive exceptions.
Thank you, Mr. McGacko. Absolutely, the RD would be very explicit about agreement to comply with the additional conditions. That would be very much, it will be a short RD, but it won't be that short. It'll very much include those post-application matters that are agreed to. So I thank you, Mr. Biacco. I like I said, looking at the calendar, I don't need to do anything about exceptions. We'll just leave it as it is. And if for some reason there are exceptions and it can't go forward on January 5th, I think that's okay with the parties. This isn't quite that much of a rush. I think we've done a good job of expediting it so far. I'd like to apologize to the court reporter for nodding sometime. That's a no, I know that. But we'll just go forward under the rules without any deviation therefrom. So I just like to make sure, does council have anything to add before I tell the court reporter that we're completely finished for the day?
Nothing but my thanks to you, Mr. Hearing Examiner, to the parties in the case and their witnesses, and of course to our court reporter. That's all I have from staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Brien?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, ditto for New Mexico Water. Thank everybody for their work and participation in bringing the case to where we are today.
And Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, all I can do is say the same. It's the
Oh, Mr. Lewis, I think we have a frozen connection, but it sounds like everything is okay from your end. I have a frozen connection at least, so I'm not hearing anything more from you and you're frozen. Okay, so I want to thank the party representatives for all three of the parties and the witnesses for appearing today. Thank you for thanking me. You didn't need to. This was a very easy matter for me to handle. All I had to do was show up for this hearing and say the basic statements and ask the basic things that I have to ask. But everybody did a fantastic job of getting this moving and making it very easy. So I want to thank you very much. And with that, we can close today's hearing.
Thank you.
Bye.